I'm Katie.
And I'm Steve, and this is the City of Reading podcast. Curious about what's happening with the open retail space in downtown Reading? Well, we have good news for you. Today, we connect with Erin Ross, Communications and Asset Ambassador for K2 Development Companies, to fill us in on all the good things coming to downtown.
She'll let us know what K2 is and why they are passionate about improving the Reading community. She'll also touch on placemaking and why that is such an important ingredient to the success of a vibrant and healthy community.
Not to give anything away, but if you haven't heard about the Reading Public Market, get excited. If you've ever been to Oxbow Market in Napa or the Ferry Plaza Building in San Francisco, you'll know what's coming to Reading in the summer of 2024. In fact, the visionary behind these two renowned markets is helping shape the vision for the Reading version.
We'll also cover the plans for California Street, paid parking downtown, and a new development coming soon along the north end of Market Street.
I'm Erin Ross, Communications and Asset Ambassador for K2 Development Companies. I handle many aspects of any commercial development that K2 is currently trying to launch or has launched, from lease up to marketing to management in some cases, and just being a liaison in general to our commercial tenants.
Perfect. Thank you, Erin. We're super excited to have you on today. Thank you for joining us. And we're really excited to talk about some of the things that are both in downtown currently and coming to downtown. I know there's a lot of excitement, but maybe we could start with letting folks know what exactly is K2? What do you guys do, and how do you help support what's happening in Reading?
K2 Development Companies started out more in single-family developments, started by Randy Knott, who is the father of Alan and Daniel Knott. Alan Knott is our CEO, and Daniel is our CFO. So the company was really started by Randy. Daniel and Alan are both graduates of Cal Poly. They went off to college. Alan got into the finance world and then eventually joined his dad in the development world, and Daniel followed not too long after that. That was kind of the genesis of the company, and things have evolved over time since then.
I know this might be review for some people, but K2 has been working with the city and on many projects downtown for part of these public-private partnerships to get development, get funding, and kind of help build some of this new construction that's been going downtown. Why is K2 so involved in downtown? Why are they passionate about these projects? What is it about downtown Reading that really makes them excited?
Well, both Daniel and Alan are Reading natives, grew up here, are local to our community. I think what's unique about K2 is they're not just passionate about development in general, they're really passionate about creating vibrant spaces. And I think if you asked either one of them, they're both fathers and they both have families, and they both have a vested interest in helping to create the kind of community where their children want to live. And, similar to how they grew up, went off to college and came back, I think they're both not so secretly hoping for the same thing. And I am as well. So, there's many of us in the community that we don't want to see our kids. We love this community, but we don't want to see our kids grow up and move away, never to come back because our community doesn't have anything to offer them. Actually, I'll share a funny story that comes to mind. My former role was at the Reading Chamber of Commerce. I worked there for 5 years with Jake. And in 2019, I believe it was, we held our annual awards banquet, and K2 Development was the recipient of our annual Business of the Year award. And we always do a little research on the company, try to give a little context, a little background. I don't remember exactly how, but we unearthed this Record Searchlight article in which you had Daniel and Alan on the front page. And what was happening at that time was that the city of Reading was abolishing the cruise. And the cruise, some of us may know about the cruise, but the cruise was one of those things that the young people in the community were having perhaps a little too much fun with. And it was becoming problematic, for the city. Loud music and just, general kind of mild form of debauchery, you might say. But Daniel and Alan were very much opposed to this. They quite enjoyed the cruise. And so you had Daniel and Alan with picket sign, protest signs on the corner of I believe right there in Market Street. I believe I could be mistaken, but somewhere in the downtown core voicing their opposition to the cruise. So these are a couple of guys who, value having places in our community and activities in our community for our young people to enjoy. And, maybe just maybe that's where it all began. I don't know.
That's awesome. Erin, maybe we can focus mainly on, the last 5 years or so as it relates to downtown. Obviously, a lot of development has occurred and is still occurring, and K2's been at the center of much of that. Let's talk a little bit, if we can, about Market Center on Market Street, the recently opened California Place Apartments on California Street, along with the parking garage. What was the genesis of all that with K2 and partnering with the city and other community partners? How did that come about, and how is it determined specifically for those Market Center and California Place Apartments to do a mixed use residential and commercial construction?
Well, I think essentially timing met opportunity. You had a somewhat dilapidated downtown with some outdated buildings. You had the parking garage reaching the end of its useful life and starting to show some signs of not even being structurally sound. The Dickers building is as much as, I think part of the history of the Dickers building was that at some point, a portion of the city of Reading was going to move into that building. And it just never happened. So you had in, I think 2013, 2014, the Greyhound station was converted to mixed use. So that was probably one of the first bigger projects right within the downtown core that kind of set the ball rolling. Then when you have the Dickers building, it's just, what are we going to do with this building? That was an old building. The Dickers family did business in there for nearly 50 years. And it's what comes next. So I think K2, saw an opportunity for some development there. And right around that time was the revision of the downtown specific plan, which I think played a part in that as well. Thankfully, there was, and I wasn't really involved at that time, so I don't know exactly which dominoes, fell at which time. But what I do know is that through just some real synergy and vision, along with the vision of the new updated downtown specific plan, it became clear that the community was ready for something new. So the Market Center project was really made possible by a $20 million grant that was awarded by Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities. So they held a grant program in which K2, the city of Reading, I believe with assistance from Shasta Regional Transportation Agency, all came together to submit a joint application for that funding. That was really what made it possible for Market Center to be built. And with that was the recognition that in order to have a vibrant downtown and in order to have a thriving, community and a vibrant and lively downtown, you have to have people living downtown. Increasing the housing supply downtown was a really important component of downtown revitalization. And when you think about mixed use, it's really the solution to bring commerce and commercial activity as well as increased housing. It just wouldn't have been possible without that state grant. So thankfully, K2 and others saw that opportunity and were able to just create a dynamic partnership and go after some of those opportunities. And the same sort of a situation for the California Place project, which was formerly known as Block 7. I'm not going to say Block 7 because Rocky will make me put $1 in the jar. But it was kind of a similar partnership situation with the McConnell Foundation being a pretty large component of that as well. With those opportunities presenting themselves, the stars aligned and we were able to start building.
And I might be jumping ahead, but I think, there's a lot of people in our community that are just thrilled with the way that downtown has come together. just visually and reopening the streets and all of that. But it feels like the missing component still is that commercial retail bottom floor space. And I know that there's been some movement there that has been announced by K2, but I don't know that it's been talked about like extensively. Can you tell us what's on the horizon, some exciting things that are coming to that downtown retail space?
Sure. Well, I think it's important to say that when Market Center started to be built, we were pre-pandemic and we had an absolutely thriving economy. And so that project, really had quite a few problems from beginning to end. There were some environmental things that needed to be addressed that delayed things. And then COVID happened. The economy started to change. And with California Place as well, the cost of materials, just the cost of lumber itself, those impacts on a project like that are so immense that I'm for one am impressed that they even both still happened. But they did. But needless to say, that kind of puts a little bit of a damper on some of the commercial activity. So had the pandemic never happened, would we see something different if the economy had not started to decline? I think we would. No one can be sure. But thankfully, we've got Apricot Lane, who came into Market Center as that pioneer tenant in that building. And there's been a lot of interest, but after a series of pivot, what the company, along with other consultants and professionals in the industry, came together and had the idea to create a public market on the bottom of that space. So then instead of relying on a national anchor tenant that's feeling pretty risk averse due to the current economical climate, you're then relying on a group and a collaboration of smaller tenants to come in and collaborate together to create a whole different experience, really. I don't know if this was destined to be, but it feels like it was. It just seems like this is such a great place to land for this space. I don't know how it could have turned out any better, to be honest. The Reading Public Market is about 13,000 square feet in size. We have several tenants that are already signed. We actually only have space for one more tenant. But what we are looking to create here is a vibrant community gathering space where people just want to come and hang out, grab a bite to eat. There's going to be a strong retail component to it. It's going to be right in the center of downtown. There's going to be outdoor dining. We have Fall River Brewing. We have Bantam Kitchen. We have ice cream. We're going to have a small grocery component to it. We'll have a cocktail bar, bakery. So all of these things are really just what is needed to create an experience that we think is going to be really unique and special for our community.
And so it sounds like when you're talking public market, it's maybe not all that different than what folks might be familiar with Pike's Market in Seattle or the Ferry Building in San Francisco, with kind of that combination of experience places where you can sit down and have something to eat and drink as well as purchase something to take home.
Exactly. It's not that different from what we might see in Europe or other places, but we're starting to see more and more of these pop up in the US. And, everywhere they decide to create a public market, it's always a gathering place. It's always a hub. It's always a little hive of activity. The company thought, well, why not here? And they hired some of the best as experts on public markets to consult and help them, really get this right. So Steve Carlin, he's one of the founders of Oxbow Market and the Ferry Building in San Francisco. And he's really been with us every step of the way throughout the process to make sure that we right-size this for Reading, that we keep it genuine and authentic, and we really create something that we're not trying to replicate another city's market. We're trying to create Reading's public market. We're really excited about what that's going to mean.
And do you have any timeline for that? When can people start to expect to see some changes there, or I'm assuming some construction might need to happen to prepare that space for that. Like, when can people start to see some movement there?
Yeah, so we're still in design drawings right now. We are probably close to 75% finished. We hope to submit plans to the city of Reading and to the county around the first of the year, and then we'll start building.
And Erin, you mentioned some tenants like Fall River and Bantam and some others. How important is it for the sake of keeping that public market, authentic, as you said? How important is it to have local vendors and local options in there?
Oh, that's a good question. You know, sometimes we like to think about bringing in the best from outside of the area. But for this particular project, it's been really great to see some of these seasoned business owners within our community that have really been staples in our community come together and have such excitement and such a team mentality about this project. I, for one, am really excited about the team that we've created. Some are a little newer in business, some are a little bit more seasoned, but everybody is just 100% on board and excited. We've got Tarsus Foods, who is the parent company of From the Hearth and Chicken Shack, and these guys everybody is just so excited to make this happen. So I think you get that really invested feeling from our local people who just really love this community and want to see it thrive. And I don't know that we would have that if we brought in people from out of the area. It's not to say that we are completely, wouldn't consider someone from out of the area. We would, but the way that it's worked out, I'm thankful that, we've really got some of our really seasoned Reading business people as a part of it.
Well, and I think one of the exciting things that I remember seeing were some of the renderings that came through. I think those were posted on social media a while ago. They're really exciting. I think they put a visual to what this is actually going to look like as a huge kind of change in that bottom floor space of downtown Reading. Is there a place where people can see those renderings now?
We do have those renderings on readingpublicmarket.com. That website is going to go through some changes here in the near future, but those renderings do live there right now. And I agree with you, Katie. I mean, I got so excited to see those and to know that this is going to be really unique. It's going to be a visitor's destination. It's going to bring tourism. It's really going to create something special. And I think Reading is so ready for it. And something that I am very thankful to K2 for is that they don't just think about development. They think about placemaking. They think about what is going to bring art and culture and commerce and, outdoor dining and the public market is going to have some parklets in front of it. And, those are things that they don't have to do. They don't have to do these things, but we're really working hard to create a sense of place downtown. And some people might not be familiar with that term. That term placemaking has really been a part of this downtown revitalization conversation the whole time. And, you can Google it online. There's a lot of literature out there, about placemaking and about what that is. But it's really, I'll actually read a definition because I love this. Placemaking inspires people to collectively reimagine and reinvent public spaces as the heart of every community, strengthening the connection between people and the places they share. Placemaking refers to a collaborative process by which we can shape our public realm in order to maximize shared value. So there's just so much more to what we're doing than just building buildings. So that piece is really important because it's all of the little things, right? It's Blake Fisher and the Art Hunger leading an effort to put decals on some of our electrical boxes downtown. It's Danny Orloff at Visit Reading painting some of the other structures around and creating murals downtown for us all to enjoy. It's Jake at the Chamber working to put up some new catenary lighting in what was formerly Umbrella Alley, and K2, building little spots for seating and thinking through landscaping, and the city of Reading, being willing to invest in our infrastructure with pavers and beautiful sidewalks and streets. All of these things are such an important piece to what we're trying to do. And it's not just about a few people in Reading trying to come into downtown and take over. It's really about our community coming together as a whole and everyone's voice being heard and everyone bringing what they have to offer to the table. And then making the commitment to come down and enjoy it and be a part of things and, enjoy some of these awesome community events that we have. And so I think that really embodies a lot of what our company is about. And it's awesome to be a part of it. And the Reading Public Market is going to be no different. The patio itself is just a huge investment that it's not something that's required, but it's just something that's going to add that much more to the space and make it that much more enjoyable for everyone.
And I think there's some real excitement, and I'm excited, especially after what you've said. I can't wait to see what comes of it. I wondered too, Erin. With that the time it's taken since some of the construction men you mentioned, some of those COVID and construction related costs. But I think, do you have reason for optimism for this kind of continued growth of downtown? It sounds like some great things are happening. People need to wait just a little bit longer for some of this. Overall, I mean, are you optimistic as to what the future of downtown holds?
I am very optimistic, and it's illustrated in all of the new businesses that are coming downtown. We just had New Clairvaux open up their new tasting room at Market Center, which is an awesome addition. Just in the past 6 months alone, and we've got Area 151 VR right across the street that came in and did some tenant improvements. We've got Shenanigans Baby Boutique. We've got all of these people that believe in the vision. It's not just us. So for those reasons, it feels like there's definitely a momentum. And yes, these things do take time. The inception of Reading Public Market was 2 years ago. And we're just now getting to the point where we're almost done with construction drawings. And these things they really do take time. I would say to the community, continue to be patient, believe in your community, and just know that it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth the wait.
We've heard from several city planners and professional consultants and parking experts that really paid parking is the only way to keep traffic kind of flowing and moving in downtown. And in fact, we even heard that from some prospective tenants. I know the city heard that they wouldn't even consider coming to downtown Reading until there was a paid parking program in place, because that's the only way they can ensure turnover and it can ensure a vibrancy that's going to keep their business open and healthy. From your perspective, what's your opinion on the parking program downtown? How is it working? How is K2 view that as a potential piece of the vibrancy of downtown?
Well, I think in practice, the parking program, it's certainly been controversial. We've had different levels of feedback from, depends on who you ask. If you ask the business owners, I would say it's a little bit split. We have some business owners that say, our business is thriving and our customers always have a place to park in front of our business. And so they're not dissuaded from coming downtown because they can't find a space. And then you have those few that, they're saying that their customers don't want to come downtown because they think they can't find a space or they don't want to pay. So I think we have a problem of perception as much as anything. And with any big change, it's going to take time, but I would just say, give it a try. It's really not that life altering. I've got my little app on my phone. I pay for parking on a regular basis. I pull out my little app. I enter in my dollar and I go on my merry way, and I never have a problem finding parking. And the way that I look at it is that if we want to have a place that's worth going, then we have to be willing to pay a buck to go there. And there's a cost associated with anywhere you go, whether it be gas or mileage or whatever the case may be. But people can be real stubborn about it, and they just have the belief that they shouldn't have to pay. And it's certainly a paradigm shift, but I think with time, it's really going to be an issue of the past. And I think that the people that are just completely unwilling to ever come downtown and pay for a parking spot, well, they're just going to miss out, sadly.
And just to remind folks that, it's really that dollar an hour that we're talking about is really, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Anytime after 6 on weekdays or on weekends, it is free to park downtown. Maybe we could pivot a little bit, Aaron. I think we've covered Market Center pretty well. You mentioned the Clairvaux tasting room, obviously the excitement around the public market, Apricot Lane, moving over a block to California Place. What's the plan for those commercial spaces? I know there's quite a bit of available commercial space there. What's going to happen in those spots?
Well, California Place is another big reason why I'm very optimistic about downtown, because it's not obvious to the general public, but there is a lot of activity. There's a lot of interest. And I can think of 3 people off the top of my head that we're talking to right now that are very interested in those spaces, with more meetings lined up to come. We have no reason to believe that those dominoes won't fall into place. And sometimes it's a thing where, once the market is launched we're looking at late summer 2024. Once that's launched, I think that's really just, I don't want to say smooth sailing, because I don't know if anything is smooth sailing in the development world, but I really see those dominoes all falling. If not before that, then certainly at that time. I think you're going to see some activity there really soon. You're going to see some tenant improvement happening there before too long. And we're really excited. I mean, I wish I could share, the people and the interests that we have, but you guys will be the first to know.
And I know you can't share or name drop, but I am super in favor of having local companies come in and that local support. But are there any big notable names, like any national companies that have reached out to be a part of this mix where it's, both large corporations, large companies that bring a lot of just clout and marketing expertise and, I don't know, business expertise to that great mix of small local businesses?
Well, I think Chris Hedrick, our broker, would be the best person to answer this question. But I will say that, yes, there has been interest from a couple of national brands. I don't know exactly where things stand on that right now, but I know that Chris is always working hard, and he's working with another firm as well to help attract some more potentially larger brands. So I'll leave it there for right now, but I will say that, yes, there has been some interest.
And Aaron, how does the process work? You mentioned that K2 is partnering with Chris Hedrick and his company on placing some of these tenants and working to get those places. And it sounds like maybe there's some experts involved through this process as well to ensure that the right tenants are going in the right places. How is community input factored into the placement, or is it?
Well, I think at the beginning of the downtown specific plan, and we're seeing now with the riverfront specific plan, that is really the stage and the phase in which there's actual data gathered from the community. The rest is pretty anecdotal. We haven't done any official surveys or anything like that, but we talk to a lot of people in the community. We hear from a lot of people. And so we get a really good sense of what people want. I think we are going to see more of a retail centric with maybe a cafe or a store on the California Place side. We're hopeful to see, some more artistic and cultural activity on that side. But really, I think the best way that I can answer that question is that we've taken so much feedback over the years, and we've looked at data from the community over the years, and the conversations that we continue to have really help guide those decisions on the right tenant mix that the community is really going to embrace.
I'd also like to say that I think downtown has a lot of support too from the community. There's a lot of people who are very supportive of what's going downtown, even though we may not hear from them all the time. I think people are noticing what's going on, they're appreciating it, and they're excited for what's to come. I guess in your perspective, what do you tell the naysayers, the people who are, saying that either K2's monopolizing or that the downtown movement is moving too slow and, they're just ready to see something already? What do you tell people who have a negative opinion of downtown?
I just say look for the positive. There's a lot going on. First Fridays is a great example of businesses that are ready and willing to host activities. The New Clairvaux grand opening had about 1,000 people there. So it's really hard to, argue with the fact that we have so much fun, positive activity. If you disagree, then you're probably not coming downtown, is my guess. Reading Roots Revival is another great example of something that has just really blossomed over the past few years. These are phenomenal things that we would have never dreamed of seeing 10 years ago. So give it a chance. Listen, give me a call. I'll give you a tour. I will host you. If you're a naysayer and you don't believe in downtown, call me up. I will take you out to lunch or out to dinner or to coffee, and I'll show you some of the great new things that are happening. And I, who knows? You might even get a little sneak peek of something. Who knows?
Erin, I'm curious, we've talked a lot about the development and the placement of the commercial tenants and the excitement around that. In K2's business model, how does the process of both facility upkeep and landscaping, are those costs built into the ongoing maintenance of these constructed places, or how does that piece work to ensure that downtown continues looking as for lack of a better term, nice and clean as it does today?
That's a really good question. So right now on our two properties, we have third-party property management that takes care of a lot of those, cleanliness, landscaping, those kinds of issues, maintenance and things like that. We've got the Shasta College Tower along Tehama. We've got the multi-level parking garage, which we formerly called B2. So we property manage those as well and have some hand in that. We work with a company called ACE that helps manage the parking garage, and they really handle some of the ongoing maintenance. We also have Ardent Security that helps with security and all of that. So we have those things in place, but what we really want to see downtown and what we know is really the best mechanism for the long term of downtown Reading is the PBID. We've been a part of that process throughout. PBID is, some communities call it property and business-based improvement district. Ours is just property-based, meaning that the property owners would be the ones to pay into that. I won't get too much into the weeds on it. I will just say that the process started to gauge which property owners would be interested in something like that. And what that is the property owners pay into a fund that then gets distributed to a consultant to manage things like cleanliness, security. Sometimes there's some marketing pieces involved, things like litter abatement, upkeeping the landscaping, those kinds of things. Some communities even allocate some of those funds to create a special brand for their downtown or a special website or, special like oversight committee. So where we are in that process is that enough property owners said that they were interested for the city to lead a process to choose a consultant, basically, that would build the program. So there has been a consultant identified, and now it's really just buy-in from the property owners, a meaningful partnership with the city of Reading to make it happen. And that would be the mechanism that would be in place to really oversee those things long term. So usually they last 5 years and then they can be renewed for another 5 years. And then, my understanding is you have to start over at that point. But we're really hopeful that the rest of the downtown property owners will see that as a valuable tool that's going to actually increase their property values. We're hopeful that that'll be in place within the next year or two.
And that's great. I think that's another behind the scenes thing that we hear from the community, that things aren't often upkept. And it's nice to know that you're already thinking through that process and already on top of maintaining what's downtown and keeping that to looking like a vibrant space that it is.
Yeah, right now it can be an uphill battle. We have our side on the California Street side that, we're making every effort to make sure that, pet waste and all of that kind of stuff gets handled. But it can't just be us. We've got to approach this together as a community, and we've got to get some of the other property owners on board.
And the city does have an Adopt a Block program for downtown that is going to be ramping up here soon as well to get some additional buy-in from business owners who want to adopt a block of downtown and really take that ownership and maintain it. And they get a sign with their name on it. So that's a piece that's already in place, but will start to ramp up here soon as well.
Oh, that's great news. I love to hear that because even if PBID is put into place, it's going to be a little while. So I think that would be an awesome thing for, a business owner or a nonprofit to look into doing something like that. That would be great.
Erin, I know we've talked a lot about what's coming, and I think there's some real excitement around that. Is there anything else we haven't covered today that you want to be sure we touch on?
Actually, yeah, I just did want to mention that something that I didn't mention before that was an important piece to the sustainability piece of these buildings was, everyone's probably seen the running bike share downtown, the bike depot and Shasta Living Streets and some of these alternative forms of transportation. Those pieces were actually really important parts of us getting these grants into Reading. I do want to mention that as well, and the hard work of Ann Thomas and others at Shasta Living Streets. The Reading bike share is fun as it is. I love the bikes, but they do offer clean transportation. So it's not just for fun. It was actually an integral piece of what allowed some of this new development to happen. The other thing I would mention is that we do have another exciting project. More details will be released soon about the Market Street and Shasta development. It'll be mixed use, but it won't be ground floor commercial with residential on top. It'll be a commercial building with some market rate residential actually as a separate building. But we're really excited about that too, and we can't wait to tell you more about it. There's just a couple more things that need to fall into place before we're going to make an announcement, but I think the community is going to be really excited about it.
Nice.
Cool.
That's awesome. That's super exciting.
Seems like a great place to end it on a teaser. Stay
Erin,
tuned. Little cliffhanger for you. Yeah.
right. And I'm going to ask one more question. You touched on sustainability. Can you talk about both Market Center and California Police Departments? From what I understand, the solar panels, they're self-sustainable buildings. Can you talk a little bit about the sustainable elements built into those buildings?
Yeah, those were requirements for those grant funds as well. Net zero buildings with the solar panels on top. We have solar panels on top of the parking garage as well. So those are all pieces that need to be in place in order for those grants to be awarded. And, obviously just a great thing for our community. The other thing is EV chargers in both of those garages. Those are actually, there's actually EV chargers in both garages as well, the Market Center garage and the California Street garage. So just all important pieces of, many, many different hardworking organizations that came together to make it happen.
That's perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Erin. It was great. It was really helpful.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.